Emma had been serving coffee at Miller's Cafe for 17 years. At 53, her feet knew every crack in those old wooden floors, and her hands could balance 3 cups without thinking twice. The morning rush had just ended when she noticed him through the window. He stood outside in a jacket 2 sizes too big, shuffling from foot to foot in the November cold. His beard was unkempt, and his eyes held that distant look she had seen before in people who had lost their way. Emma watched him peer through the glass at the chalkboard menu. She saw him pat his pockets and come up empty. Something in his expression reminded her of her own father years ago when their family had hit hard times. "Table for 1, she called out as he turned to leave. The man looked startled. He was younger than she first thought, maybe in his early 40s, with kind eyes that hadn't quite given up. "I don't have any money today," he said quietly. "Did I ask for money?" Emma smiled. "Sit down before you catch pneumonia out there." His name was Michael. She learned this as she brought him hot coffee and a turkey sandwich from her own lunch. He ate slowly, savoring each bite like it was Thanksgiving dinner. They talked between her other tables about nothing important and everything that mattered. He had been an architect once. A good one. Then his wife got sick and the medical bills piled up like autumn leaves. After she passed, he couldn't find his way back. Lost the house, lost the career, lost himself somewhere along the way. "You remind me of her," Michael said softly. She always saw people, not problems. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. She squeezed his shoulder and went back to work. When her shift ended, she found her manager, Dale, counting receipts in the back. "I need to pay for table 7, she said. Dale looked up over his reading glasses. "Emma, that's $15. You make 10 an hour. "I know what I make, Dale. Just take it out of today's tips." The next morning, Emma arrived at 6 to open up. The cafe wouldn't be busy for another hour. She was wiping down tables when she heard the door chime. A man in a charcoal suit stood in the entrance. His hair was neatly trimmed, his beard shaped close to his jaw. It took her a full moment to recognize Michael. "You came back," she said, surprised. "I told you I would." He walked to the counter with a leather briefcase. "Emma, I need to tell you something. I wasn't completely honest yesterday." Her heart sank. She had heard stories about con artists who preyed on kind people. "I was homeless," he continued. That part was true. "And I was an architect." Also true. "What I didn't tell you is that 3 months ago I got a call from an old colleague. There's a development project downtown that hit problems. They needed someone who knew the original plans from 15 years ago. I was that someone." Emma listened, not sure where this was going. "They hired me as a consultant, gave me an advance to get cleaned up, get housed. Yesterday I had a meeting with the investors. I was so nervous I walked around for hours. I spent my last cash on bus fare and forgot to eat. When I saw your cafe, I just wanted to sit somewhere warm for a minute before I embarrassed myself." He opened his briefcase and pulled out papers. "The meeting went well, Emma. Very well. They want me to lead the entire restoration project. Yesterday, when you fed me, when you treated me like I mattered, I walked into that boardroom remembering who I used to be. You gave me my dignity back at the exact moment I needed it most." Emma's throat tightened. "Michael, I'm so happy for you. You didn't need to come tell me, but I'm glad you did. I'm not finished." He slid a document across the counter. "This cafe is in a building slated for renovation. Dale owns it, but he's been wanting to retire for years. The new development company is buying the property. I made sure the contract includes keeping this cafe operational with a profit-sharing model for long-time employees." Emma stared at the papers, not comprehending. "You'll be the manager, Emma. 30% ownership. Dale gets his retirement and you get security. The cafe stays, but it becomes something more. A place where people matter. Where someone having a bad day can sit down and be seen." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Michael, I can't accept this. You already did. Yesterday when you gave without expecting anything back. I'm just returning the favor. He smiled, and for the first time she saw real joy in his face. Besides, someone needs to make sure I eat lunch. I still forget sometimes. Dale arrived then, and Michael explained everything again. The older man listened, nodding slowly, then looked at Emma. You always were too generous for your own good, he said gruffly. Guess it finally paid off. 3 months later, Miller's Cafe reopened with new windows and old heart. Emma stood behind the counter in her manager's apron, watching Michael cut the ribbon outside. The neighborhood had gathered, and inside the cafe smelled of fresh coffee and possibility. On the wall behind the register hung a simple frame. Inside was a $15 receipt and a handwritten note that read, "Kindness is never wasted. It always finds its way home." Emma looked around at the faces new and familiar. She thought about all the years she had poured coffee and listened to stories. She thought about her father and Michael's wife and all the people who had shaped her into someone who couldn't walk past suffering. Some investments don't show returns for years. Some pay back in ways you never expected. And some, like a cup of coffee and a sandwich on a cold November morning, change everything. Michael caught her eye through the window and raised his coffee cup in salute. She smiled back and turned to her first customer of the day. "Welcome to Miller's," she said warmly. "What can I get for you?" If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs reminding that small acts of kindness create big ripples. Subscribe for more stories that celebrate the goodness in ordinary people, and leave a comment telling us about a time someone's kindness changed your day. Your story matters too.